The fourth season of Ninjago Tournament of Elements is often regarded as one of the best Ninjago seasons we have had to the present day. Regardless of the modern innovations of Ninjago, this season has always come back as being one of the staples of the show. And honestly, for good reason. There is a lot when it does come to Tournament of Elements. They took a long time crafting this season, and it's definitely reflected in the final product. But looking back at it 11 years on, damn, I'm old, I realized that maybe this season isn't as good when looking back. So, in a continuation of my seasonal retrospectives, I'm going to be taking a look back at Season 4, discussing the aspects of the season and deciding, is it still as good as people say it is? And of course, remember, this is ultimately my opinion. Of course, you may love this season, you may completely detest this season, and that is completely fine. And I hope some very interesting and civil discussions do spark in the comment section down below. But beyond that, let me not waste any more of your time, and let's talk about Tournament of Elements. Now, where did we leave off after the events of Season 3? Zayn made the ultimate sacrifice. By all accounts, he was gone to the world. He was completely departed, and that was honestly a very big deal when it did come to the ninja team. They were struggling to continue on as they were. They were drifting apart. They were not training together anymore. They took on other life responsibilities, and they were just ultimately no longer really a team. We don't really know how long it's been between the events of Season 3 or 4, but the thing is that considering that the ninja is still very much within the grieving process, you have to assume there's probably been a couple of months. The only thing is the fact that the ninja, like I said, have moved on by all accounts. Kai is a fighter in a local bar. You get to see Jay as a game show host. You get to see Cole as a lumberjack. You get to see that they are on, by all accounts, completely different stretches of life. But that wouldn't last long. Because little did they know, Zayn was actually still alive and he was captured by the new villain of the season, being Master Chen. And he needed the ninja to come back together so he could lure them to his island to take place in the new Tournament of Elements. But before I do get into more of the side of what Season 4 had to offer, I do want to cover a little more of the beginnings of the ninja team here. Their emotional state I do think is fairly fascinating because by all accounts they are following the 5 stages of grief. None of them are in denial. The thing is that all of them have accepted the fact that Zayn is in fact gone. But the other 4 stages you can see reflected in the 4 ninja. Anger was very much going to Jay. Jay is very much reflective in his angry state at the start of the season, and he very much is taking it out on Cole because of the love triangle from the season before. But it's very clear that Jay is just simply frustrated with everything that's gone on, so he is within anger. Bargaining is Kai. Kai remarks of the fact that it should have been him that made the ultimate sacrifice. It shouldn't have been Zayn, and it was him that should have done that maneuver. Again, showing that he's very much in the 3rd stage because he was rather trade his own life in terms of Zayn. Depression is Cole. Cole is kind of just done. He remarks of the fact that he's just tired of it all. He's just not willing to deal with it and he just kind of want to be left alone. He's just in the sad stage, and it's definitely more reflective with him because of how close he was with Zayn. And then of course acceptance is Lloyd. Lloyd is just prepared to move on and trying to replace him with a new member of the ninja team. And again, you can actually see the stage of grief reflected in the ninja in that scene itself. When Lloyd says that, Jay's angry. Lloyd is just saying that should be the case. Cole just kind of sits there. Of course he is upset, but then Kai is obviously saying that shouldn't be the case. Honestly, I really like these reflections, and it's just a cool way to introduce them for the season. But like I said, now let's move beyond that point and into what the season was actually setting up, which was Chen and the Tournament of Elements. Ninjago's world has been expanded in this season like no before, because it's not just a tournament with the ninja, but with other elemental masters. Chen invited a load of different elemental powers out to his own personal island, which we later find out he was actually imprisoned on, to actually compete in this tournament, which he presented as something that it wasn't. He was just trying to find the strongest elemental master, as he claimed, and he was going to pursue them with all of the power as a reward for being the best fighter. Honestly, it was an interesting ploy because power ultimately is something that people are attracted to. So it was a good thing by him and definitely does show his manipulative tendencies. But this was an island that he lured them onto, which he had complete control over. He had aspects of every single part of this island, and there was nothing that he didn't know about that did take place on it. It was absolutely amazing, and the perfect place to put a lot of power up against each other. But like I said, he claimed the reward is the power of all of their competitors, which is the big aspect of this season. Powers were being stolen, powers were being removed, and Ninja could be without their elemental abilities. It was honestly a really interesting premise that they show us really early on. They're not discreet about the fact that that is what Chen wanted to do. In the very first episode, we get allusions to it, and then in the second one, we see it actually happen. It is a really good premise, and definitely did have everyone hooked. But I mentioned all these elemental powers and these elemental fighters, and again, that is one of the biggest things that did come from this season as well. We were introduced to the fact that there are tons of elements out there, more than we would ever have conceived on. We were told that the ninja was special when in reality, they kind of weren't. We were shown metal, speed, the mind, nature, form, so many different new powers that were really interesting to see, and the characters that came with it are both memorable and iconic. A big plus for this season was the fact that these characters that did have these powers were really cool and definitely ones that people want to see back to this very day. Skylar is a massive one of this. She was meant to be a ninja and people still hope that she does become one to this very day. But beyond that, Karloff, such a memorable character and had so many amazing scenes. Griffin Turner, Neuro, Shay, Tox, Camille, all of these characters that we do sometimes see in the modern day but definitely have left their lasting impression when it does come to the Ninjago franchise. But with all of these amazing new side characters being introduced, it does rely on one other biggest thing, which I have already mentioned. Chen. He is the main villain of the season. Of course, we do have some side villains as well, like Klaus and the Anaconda cultists in general, but Chen was obviously the big bad of the season, and you can't have a good season without a good villain. So does he accomplish this? And well, yeah, very much so. Chen is an absolutely fantastic crafted villain. He has absolutely everything you do want in the more maniacal kind of portrayal that we do get to see. He is theatrical with what he does. His chair is an aspect of himself. It's an extension of his personality. The buttons with all the little aspects, the doors, everything about it is what is Chen all about. He is just that big theatrics of a villain. He's not intimidating by any account. He's not threatening for the most part when it does come to these scenes, but he does have a presence about him which does just do nothing but work. He's got this fantastic level of charisma to him as well. He is manipulating his daughter into betraying her friends because of his ultimate goal. He is betraying every single aspect of loyalty and truth that he actually knows of. He's telling all of these fighters that they can win power and they can make it big in the land of Ninjago because of this tournament. And they believe him. You've got to have charisma. You've got to have that amazing characteristic to yourself to be able to pull this off. And you've also got to be very manipulative, which he most definitely is. He has got that ability to really conduct himself and get into people's heads. We'll talk about it in a minute, mainly when it does come to Kai. But the thing is that he does get into all of the characters' heads. He does have his way of worming himself in, and it definitely does show how much of a villain that he truly is. But you can have all of these aspects, but you ultimately do still need your end goal. You need your motive, and what was that for him? Well, it was to become an Anaconda. It was to become the most fearsome warrior in all the land. It was to take over Ninjago in the most fierce and most competitive fighter he has ever seen. He wanted all of the power to transform himself into something bigger, into something better, into something that could not be stopped. He had that goal and he remained consistent with it throughout. No matter what it took, he was going to get it, whether that meant betraying his daughter, whether that meant leaving behind his most loyal second in command. He did not care whatsoever. He had his goal and he was sticking to it, and it was amazing to actually see. I think just what makes him stand out beyond all of that as well is that he's just very different to what we got beforehand. Of course, we had some more goofy and weird villains in Ninjago, like the Serpentine for example. But the thing is that regardless of that, Chen just had something different. All of those Serpentine warriors still had this really fierce and competitive nature to them, but Chen had this amazing blend of so non-serious theatricals whilst also being a completely fierce competitor, and I just think it made him stand out because of it. I think he just accomplishes exactly what the writers intended, and for that reason I tip my hat to them, because Chen just does feel very memorable. He has got that aspect to him that I don't think anyone would forget, because just simply how he goes about himself was absolutely fantastic. Because like I said, I keep mentioning the theatrics, I keep remembering the charisma that he does have. But that's the point. Regardless of that, he does still have his intimidating aspects. Think no further than when he fights Lloyd. Regardless of the fact he has every elemental power apart from energy, and he has every single advantage given to him, he is still this most intimidating villain, and I can't help but unsee it in that very moment, and that is why he stands out. I just can't help but absolutely adore this character. There's so much to Chen that I absolutely adore, and I could make a video about him if I wanted to, and I have. It's called The Hidden Genius of Master Chen. If you haven't watched it, I would definitely recommend you do so because I go through it more in depth. But as of now, let me just say this, as a villain and as an aspect of the season, Chen very much is a big aspect of it, and it definitely does work. But with the side characters and the main villain out of the way, let's actually talk about the ninja team. Let's talk about what they actually had within this season. Did they actually have any sort of meaningful plot progression? Did they have any character development? And to an extent, a fair few of them did, but also some of them just kinda didn't. Kai had a very big aspect of this season. Like I said, he was one of the main products of Chen's manipulation. He got into Kai's head, or at the very least tried to. He wanted Kai to turn against his elemental friends, his team, his compatriots, and join the side of him to be able to rule Ninjago by his side. Honestly, really cool, and it's cool to see Kai actually re-explore concepts that weren't brought up by this point for a while, such as the whole thing of the Green Ninja, showing that Kai isn't infallible, he's not perfect, he still thinks about being the one wearing green. It's just ultimately in the back of his mind he kind of accepted it, but it was still lingering there, and I love those little bits. It shows the strength of Kai, it shows his ability to go through with the situation, to adapt, to survive. I absolutely adore it, and I definitely think he did very well this season. Cole and Jay's main thing for the season was the resolvement of their rivalry from the season before. It wasn't the end of the love triangle itself, because that would be season 6, but the thing is that this season actually at least got to see the black and the blue ninja come back together, in an absolutely amazing scene, may I add. The scene of the two of them fighting and them communicating throughout it was amazing to see, and even beyond that point, before the fight, having them both train on dummy bags with pictures of each other on it, having them both show regret and sadness was absolutely amazing and shows the emotional depth that the two are going through. And I love their reunion. I love how from that point onwards they're best friends once more. They move on in larger strengths beyond that point in time. I adore this stuff, and I definitely do think they had this really good moment. Of course, they didn't have too much more beyond this apart from stuff that's shared with the whole group, but there's still enough, and I definitely did appreciate it. Lloyd's main aspect in this season is to learn how to survive in the world essentially on his own, to control his fear, to master himself and be able to survive without his father to an extent. Remember, Garmadon is a big part of the season and I'll talk about him in a minute, but the thing is that Lloyd by all accounts was living in a world where his father was an aspect of his life, and beyond that point and beyond this season, he now has to learn to do it without him, and I think it's really cool to see his emotional depth when it does come to it. Lloyd not wanting to accept that his father has to leave, but then coming around and actually being the person to help him do it. I love the maturity from Lloyd in this season. I think he has some fantastic moments that really do display who he truly is, and I think that is fantastic to see. Again, he doesn't have much in comparison to some other seasons that he has, but this one definitely did have some good moments for him. And the last one before the big character for this season, I guess, is going to be Nia. But the thing is that she just doesn't really have a lot this season. She's kind of just there. She takes a bit of a back burner for a lot of it. She does have some cool scenes, don't get me wrong. I adore her fight with Klaus. But the thing is that this is just a season where she was on a bit of the back burner. But that's completely fine because of the next season of Ninjago. So I don't mind that. And also, she didn't get as completely sidelined as characters like Wu. Wu is honestly one of the biggest downsides of this season in my opinion. Having him be basically not present I don't think was a good decision. I understand why they did it to put emphasis on Garmadon, but I don't think that was a good enough reason. But again, those were the kind of smaller aspects I wanted to talk about before I talk about Zane. Because of course he is a fairly major aspect of this season. His return is a very big point of contention within the season, because it's not just about a tournament in season 4, it is about bringing the team back together and reuniting them once more. And did they do that well? Well, for one, I have always said that I think the reveal that Zane is alive in season 3 was a bit of a misfire. I think it would have been really cool if it was revealed to us at the same time as the ninja. I think that would have been a really cool little aspect that I do wish they took advantage of. I will say, it is a really cool emotional payoff regardless. Having Zane reunite with the ninja team gradually I think was absolutely fantastic. I will always remember the moment where Cole realizes that Zane's alive. I adore that moment because the excitement from Cole is absolutely palpable. So I do think in the emotional sense, Zane's departure basically did have the payoff that it did deserve, and I'm happy even though I don't agree with some of the executions. But it did show how much of an impact he had because the team didn't really feel like the team until Zane returned, and I do think that was good. It shows that all of the ninja play an important part when it does come to the ninja team, and I definitely do enjoy that. But what does Zane have beyond the point of the reunite and the return of his own self? Well, it's the contention of, is he truly himself? He doubts that he's the white ninja. He doubts who he is before the destruction from the Overlord. He doubts that he even has a place on the ninja team anymore. And that doubt led to so much fear within him. And Pixel ultimately is able to help him. I will say, Pixel just being sidelined into Zane's HUD, bit of a weird decision, but that's fine. But the thing is that Zane was definitely contending with whether or not he was who he was, or if he is someone new now. And he comes to the decision that he is not the white ninja. He is the titanium ninja. And he gets an elemental dragon because of it. And I will say, the elemental dragons were a fantastic part of the season, and I adore them. I just don't have too much to say about them. But yeah, Zane just had so much going for him this season, and I adored him because of it. And I know a lot of people will say that Zane doesn't have too much beyond the point of this season. And to an extent, I do agree. But I do think he had a really good place in this season, and definitely does have a lot of really memorable moments. So Zane is definitely one of the aspects I like to think of when it does come to season 4, just because of how well it was done. But whilst I think basically all of the characters were done really well, was the plots that they're involved in done well as well. Like I said, I've said a fair bit about the tournament. I will say a big thing for this season for me is the fact that I do wish that we got more of it. The first half of the season is where we got to see the tournament aspects, and then we moved into more of the abstract stuff. I do wish we got more fights. We got to see more scenes depicting the ninja going at each other. I think it would have been really cool to have actually seen those moments within the season itself. Of course, runtime is a big aspect, but I digress. I just want to see more cool fight scenes, because the ones that we did get were absolutely amazing. You can't not look at Kai versus Ash, or Camille versus Lloyd, or Skylar versus Jacob and not think, that was really cool, I wish I had more. I do think that's the only downside, is the fact that that aspect of things just felt a little rushed. The ninja and the other elemental masters were gradually losing their powers, but towards the end they all just lose it in one big batch. I think that was just a bit of a misfire, but again, that is just kind of down to runtime. But I do think ultimately the tournament aspect of the season was really good. And beyond that was the Anacondri aspect. Chen just trying to get all the power to become the Anacondri warriors that he wanted to be. And I really like that. I like the fact that there were hiccups. He was finding solutions to his problems. And I like the fact that he did get his goal ultimately, and he was going to win if it wasn't for a supernatural interaction when it did come to the deceased. I do really like that the plan, by all accounts, succeeded. I think that was a really cool plot, and I definitely do hope Ninjago does more of that. I think the other plot point of the Elemental Masters coming together and having a new Elemental Alliance was really cool as well. Seeing them all work together I think is amazing, and seeing them all bounce off each other was fantastic as well. Setting up all these new and amazing allies, which they do call in on in future seasons, I think was absolutely amazing. Just another plot point that really did work. And lastly is the aspect of Garmadon, the aspect of him having to really confront his past, confront the actions he did in the Serpentine War, confront the fact that he was a part of Chen's, well, family, I guess, in a weird way, and a part of everything that was going on. He becomes a snake, and he has to atone for the mistakes he made, and it does culminate in the ultimate sacrifice, which is, again, in similar vein to Zane's sacrifice, one of the most emotional moments we've ever seen in this whole show. I love the scenes of Lloyd remembering times with his father, remembering the good and the bad. I think there's some fantastic moments, and I definitely do think this plot point also has a fantastic payoff. It just seems to be they couldn't not hit when it did come to the season. I think they nailed everything they went out for, and I definitely do think it's reflected in just how solid the season comes across as. For 10 episodes, it is packed with these amazing aspects and amazing themes, and I can't help but absolutely love them. Speaking of themes, that is the last aspect I did want to talk about when it does come to the season, because we do explore a multitude of themes within the season itself. It's one of the more mature seasons as well because of it, because we talk about trust and betrayal. We get to see how the Elemental Masters try to trust each other, but betrayal is a big aspect, particularly with Skylar. Watching loyalties balance back and forth, Lloyd believing that Kai betrayed them. There are so many amazing moments, and it really does show how the characters would react in those situations. It's not the ninja were angry that Kai turned against them. It was they were sad. They were disappointed. I loved those aspects, and I like how they handled the characters because of it. It just felt real, and I really liked that. Power and corruption was another big one. Like I said, just the aspect of having all of that power at the palm of your hand was a big part of the season, and I like to see how characters reacted to it. Of course, the scene of Kai is a big one, seeing how he really unlocked his deep desire of the Green Ninja once more, and how the power did corrupt him because of it. But then watching Kai overcome that corruption, I absolutely love it. I think again, it just works in every way. And the other one is the aspect of sacrifice. Like I said, I talked about Garmadons and how brilliant that scene truly is. But it's more than just that in that season. We get to see moments of characters sacrifice themselves in smaller ways, like Cole bowing out of the competition so Jay could stay in it, or Garmadon staying behind so Lloyd can get to the objective, or aka Chen and his staff. I love those little aspects of sacrifice throughout the course of the season. And again, it shows the dynamic between these characters. It shows the bond that they have between each other and how it's not something easily broken. Again, a really mature and a very real feel to the season, and I think all of the themes do accomplish that aspect to it. But with all of that out of the way, it does bring me to the end of this video, and well, my final verdict when it does come to Tournament of Elements. Is it a season that is perfect? Because that is often a term that is described when it does come to Tournament of Elements. Is it perfect? And I don't think it is. I don't think it's completely flawless from any sort of mistake. No piece of media is. But this is damn close. I think honestly this season is the closest we've had to a perfect season in all of Ninjago. I'm not saying that it's my favourite by any account, but I'm saying that in the most objective sense it does accomplish everything that it went out to do so. Every single intention, every single theme, every single scene, every single character, all of it is accomplished in the way that they seemingly intended. There is no major flaw when it does come to the season. Like I said, I talk about the tournament feeling too short, but that is beyond a nitpick. I honestly think that everything in the season was very well done, and whilst nothing is perfect, I think this is pretty damn close. It introduces us to some of the best characters we've ever seen in Ninjago. Like I said, Chen, Skylar, Klaus, all of these amazing characters that do return in capacities. There's a reason they do, because they are simply just that iconic. They did a fantastic job bringing us all of these new and amazing dynamics and just expanding the world as they did. Does that mean Chen is the best villain of all time? Well, not for me personally. But I completely understand why he would be to some people, and he most definitely is to a lot. So I understand why a lot of people would say that that is the case. And again, it is definitely up there in terms of just its emotional beats, its investment, how it sucked me into this world and I wanted to know more. It does just accomplish everything that it does set out to do, and I have to give it the credit that it deserves. So when it does come down to it, Tournament of Elements is basically perfect. I don't think there's any other way to really describe it. I just think it's one of the best crafted Ninjago seasons we've ever seen. Like I said, personally speaking, it may not be my favourite, but it is most definitely up there. But that is why I want to know what you guys think. Is it your favourite season? Is it your not? Is it your least favourite season? I would love to know, and I would like to see the discussion that is sparked from this, because I do think it is fairly interesting. But as of now, that is my look back at Tournament of Elements, and honestly, I do have a new appreciation for this season when I look at it in this lens. But thank you very much for watching the video, and I do hope you enjoyed. And if you did, please consider subscribing. I love discussing Ninjago with more people. And if you do want to support the channel any further, which you do not have to, you could become a channel member and join the legends you see on screen. Thank you to each and every single one of you. Your support means the world to me. But like I said, that is better for today, and take care. Okay,